Earlier this week I uploaded a video of me playing the guitar solo from Turn Up the Radio by Autograph, and on today's episode of Weekend Wankshop we're going to be breaking down that sick solo, Lick by Tasty Lick. Check it out. Hey there kids, and welcome to this week's installment of Weekend Wankshop. Here's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. As a lot of you guys might already know, for the past year or so I've played guitar for an 80s hair metal cover band called Skank Banger. It's a ton of fun. I love learning all these classic hair metal tunes, and one of my favorite songs that we play is Turn Up the Radio by Autograph, which features a really sick solo by Steve Lynch. It's got a lot of cool tapping and bending ideas and stuff in there. It's a ton of fun to play, but I've also seen it badly transcribed over and over and over. There's a few licks in particular that I always see played slightly differently than what's on the record. So as usual, I've gone the extra mile and done a ton of homework for you guys to make sure that I'm delivering as accurate of a lesson as possible. So before we start getting into this thing, let's hear it again at stepdad speed. And as always, you guys can find a full tab for this lesson over at my Instagram channel at Ben Eller Guitars. Be sure to find the tab for this week's lesson, learn how to play it, then upload a video of yourself shredding through it along with the hashtag Weekend Wankshop. So first things first here, let's talk about the tuning that this song is in. Now I'm down just a regular old half step, E flat, A flat, G flat, G flat, B flat, E flat, half step down tuning. But if you listen to the original recording, it's kind of in between standard and half step down. It's kind of in that Dimebag Darrell quarter step down kind of range. I don't think that was intentional. I think they tuned down a half step, and then there was a maybe a mastering speed issue or something like that that made it sound slightly higher than what it was recorded at. So yeah, if you want to play along with the recording, you kind of got to tune your guitar a little bit messed up. But if you want to play along with me, tune down a half step. It's also worth noting too that the original solo is double tracked, and that's what I did for my cover as well. So if you listen closely to the left side and the right side, you'll hear some slight discrepancies on some of those bends, and especially that last kind of descending tapping thing, so keep that in mind. This solo kind of has an A mixolydian kind of vibe to it. The chords underneath it sound kind of like A, D, and G, all with that A in the bass. So this lands itself firmly in that A mixolydian kind of territory. Okay, so let's go ahead and cover the first lick here in the solo. So tasty. So what you're going to do here is to slide into the 5th fret on the A string with your middle finger, then play the 4 with your first finger. Next, slide into the 7 on the D with your ring finger, then play the D5 with your first finger. So now you have this. The slides aren't like super ultra pronounced. It's kind of just more him kind of getting from position to position. So if your slides aren't huge, don't worry about it, neither are his. Now next what you're going to do is to basically repeat that lick in the next octave. So what we're going to do here is to play the 7 on the G, again sliding in with our middle finger, then play the 6 on the G, Then you're going to slide into the 10 on the B with your third finger, then the 8 on the B with your first finger. Again, that's the exact same notes, just up an octave. So now you have this. Next, what you're going to do is to slide into the 10 on the high E with your second finger, then play the 9 on the high E. So now you have all 3 octaves here. Next, play the 10 on the B, 9 on the E, then you have this. And how I played that lick was to start off here on the 12 on the high E, pulling up to 9. Then I gotta hit the 10 on the high E, then hit it again and pull off to 9. So it's play the 10 on the B, 10 on the high E, pulling to 9. So now you have this. 10 on the B, 9 on the high E again. This is kind of outlining an A major triad. Then this. That's 10 on the B, 8 on the B, 3 notes on the G string here. You're going to play 9, 7, 6, and then on the D string play 7 and then 5. So now you should have this. And then the last thing he plays here is this is 5 on the D again. It's kind of palm muted. 4 on the G, 7 on the G, 5 on the B. And then you're gonna play the 6 on the G string here and give it a little half step bend. It's kind of like 2 half step bends and then some vibrato. So coming out that last lick there, what you're going to do is take that bend and vibrato that you did here on the 6 on the G and just slide into 11. There's not an additional pick stroke or anything, you just go and slide into them. Then you're going to play the 10 on the B, 12 on the B with a whole step bend, and then this little chromatic thing on the high E. That's just 12, 11, 10, 9. Then play the 10 on the B and the 9 on the G. And then there's a series of bends we'll talk about here in a second. See how that outlines that A triad while decorating it with a little chromaticism? It's tasty stuff. So coming out of that lick, you're gonna play the 10th fret B string here and give it a whole step bend and let it come up and down. Then you're going to play the 14 on the B and do a half step bend up and down. Then you're going to do the 17 on the B, again up a whole step and let it back down. So you have, then you play this. So this is me playing the high E string here on 17, hammering onto 19, pulling back off to 17, then play the 19 on the B. Then he does this little walk up. Now this is 17 high E, 19 high E. Notice I shifted my first finger right there. So 17 to 19, 20, and 21. Now this sequence right here is one of the parts that I see transcribed badly most of the time. I see a lot of people do something where it looks like he's like kind of playing double stops down those 2 strings. I don't know, something like that. But that's definitely not what he's doing. Watch the official music video for the tune, and you can see that he plays everything pretty much in one basic position, kind of here around the 17th position here. He never goes down as far as the 12 or the 9, like I see a lot of people doing in their covers. So keep that in mind. This is a really hard lick to play, especially with the alternate picking and stuff going through here. Kind of a challenge, lots of string skipping and stuff, but you can do it. Okay, so coming out of those bends, I want you to think of that 21 on the high E as kind of being the first note of this run. We're going to play that 21 with an upstroke. Then on the G string here, play 21 and 19. Then on the high E string, you're gonna shift down here to 19 and 17. And then on the G, you're gonna play 18 and 16. So you have this. Then you're gonna go to the B string here. You're gonna play 20 and 17. And then, what does he play after that? Yeah, so on the B string here, after you play 20 and 17, on the G, you're gonna play 18. On the D, you're gonna play 17. So it's getting a very A7 kind of sound. Whoop. After this, on the G, you're gonna play 19, 18. And then on the A here, you're gonna play 19, 17. Notice how I did the 17 with my middle finger right there. The fingering here is awful. It's really hard to play. Then you gotta play the 16 on the G, and then this run. That is 19 on the G, 18 on the G. Then on the D string here, you're gonna play 19, 16, then go on the A here and play 17, and then the 16 with a half step bend instead of vibrato. I actually think that's the hardest part in this whole solo. The tapping stuff might be more challenging for you if you're not an experienced tapper. But for me, these weird positions and stuff that he plays in, as well as the string skipping and alternate picking, kind of busted my ass harder than anything. So I'm gonna play that run a few more times here to make sure you guys can really follow along and get that down. I'll start from the little walk up right there. One more time. And then the tapping. So old Steve Lynch from Autograph was a very avid tapping kind of guy, kind of like Vito Bratta from White Lion, and he did a lot of multi-finger tapping stuff in his solos with Autograph. In other words, not just the standard Eddie, you know, one finger kind of thing. He would use his first and third fingers a lot of times in this solo to play all these arpeggios we're about to talk about. Now myself, rather than trying to do the thing that, you know, you saw Eddie do a lot of times where he'd put the pick in between his teeth or something, that presents a choking hazard for children and homeschooled people like myself. I don't do that. Usually what I do is I like to slide the pick up to the upper part of my finger. Do you see that? So I can go from holding the pick between my thumb and first finger like this right here to just sliding it up to the knuckle. That way my first finger is free to tap. Now the tapping section here uses the first and third fingers, but you can play the whole thing with just your first finger, or if you want to be, you know, really intense about it, you can hold the pick between your first finger and thumb like always and just use like your middle finger for all the tapping. Something like that. You can totally do it that way. I just prefer to do it exactly the way that Steven does it with the first and third finger. So do whatever the hell you like. Okay, so let's get into that first tapped arpeggio section that he does here. The left hand is going to be in the position of 7 and 11 on the D string, and the right hand is going to be in the position of 14 and 16. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tap on the 14 on the D string and pull off to the 7 and then hammer onto the 11. Next to the same idea, only tap the 16. Again, I'm using my third finger right here. So 16, pulling to 7, hammering onto 11. So that's, try that again. And he does that a couple times in a row. So that's 4 times total. And that's basically kind of an A major arpeggio, an A major with a 6 in there. And then what he's going to do is to move everything down a string, or up, pitch-wise, whatever floats your boat. But either way, same lick, just on the G string instead. This is kind of outlining a D major 6 kind of sound. And again, I'm playing that arpeggio 4 times there. 14 pulling to 7, hammering to 11. 16 pulling to 7, hammering to 11. 4 times in a row. Now this next one here is a little bit tricky. What you're going to do is to go to the next string and up a fret. So everybody has to move in unison across and over one right here. So now I'm going to be on the B string. I'm going to be hammering on to, or sorry, tapping to 15, pulling up to 8, hammering on to 12. Then I'm going to play the 17 on the B, again pulling to 8, hammering to 12. And you're only going to do this arpeggio 2 times before you make this change. This is kind of a tricky one to get. Essentially the right hand here, the tapping hand, stays in the same positions. It's going to be on 15 and 17, just like it is right now, only drop down to the high E string. And for the left hand here, it's got to move down to the positions of 7 and 10. So you've kind of been doing these big major third stretches so far, but now you've got to move to a minor third position here. So make sure you don't accidentally grab 7 and 11. It'll be 7 and 10. So just scrunch up one closer. Some of you guys might find this easier if you go from the wide stretches with 1 and 4 to the less wide stretch with 1 and 3. Whatever floats your boat, I use 1 and 4. So after you come off of this, we're going to transfer again to 15 pulling to 7, hammering to 10, and then 17 pulling to 7, hammering to 10, 2 times. So notice that this was only twice, and this is only twice. And then next what you do is to move up a whole step with both hands. So this is now 17 pulling to 9, hammering to 12 on the high E, and then 19 pulling to 9, hammering to 12. Just play that sequence 2 times. Then you're going to play this. Again, this is kind of back to an A major 6 kind of sound. Your right hand here, your tapping hand, is still on the same frets, only it's going to the B string. So you're going to play 17, pulling to 10, hammering to 14. 19, pulling to 10, hammering to 14. And again. So that goes by pretty quick there. So most of that tapping there was 4 each per arpeggio, but just keep in mind that once you reach the B string, it's going to switch to 2 times each, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And here's where we change. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Before we go into the next section. So just be sure to keep that in mind. So coming off that last tapped arpeggio, you got this series here that has some tapped bends and pull-offs and bends, and even some tapped slides and stuff too. And again, this is where I tend to see a lot of discrepancies between tabs and covers and the way that Steven actually plays this. Everybody kind of thinks all these are bent taps and stuff, and they really aren't. They're mostly slides. There's 2 bent taps and there's 2 tapped slides. If you don't believe me, be sure to watch the original music video really closely. It even shows a super close-up of his hands right when he does this lick, as if they knew that people would be wanting to figure out how he's doing what he's doing right here. And again, watch how many times the right hand slides and doesn't bend, and you'll believe me here. So what you're going to do is to start off by tapping onto the 17th high E. Have your left hand here at the 12th position on the high E. Notice I'm using my 3rd finger here to fret the note. That way I can use these fingers to help me bend. So I tapped 17, and then with the left hand I bent it 1 whole step up and down. Again, the right hand doesn't do the bend. The right hand only holds the note down firmly while the left hand takes it up and down. For more details about that, be sure to watch my lesson on how to play the White Lion Wait solo, which has a ton of this technique. So after you do that bent 17th tap, pull off to 12, and do a whole step bend there too. Then what you're going to do is to tap the 17 on the B, slide to 19, and come back down to 17. Pull off to 12, whole step bend again. Be sure to use a really firm tap whenever you're doing those slides, or else it'll really fade on you. Now that next one right there, I played the tapped 14 on the G. This is kind of a jump. Slide to 16, come back down to 14, pull off to 9. Pull off to 9, whole step bend there too. Slide, slide. And then next what you're gonna do is play the tapped 14 on the B, and then here I'm at about the 10th position, and I'm gonna do a half step bend. Okay, so that was 14 with a half step bend. Then what you're gonna do after this is really challenging to do, especially at slow speed, so I'll probably booger this up a few times. It's actually easier to do fast because the notes don't sustain very long when you're doing this stuff slowly. Again, this is another lick that I see badly transcribed most all of the time, but watch the original, you'll see exactly what I am talking about. So after you do that 14 on the B with the half step bend, pull off to 10, tap 12, take it up a whole step, tap 15, pull off to 10. That is a lot of stuff going on. Most people I see think this is him fretting, bending, and tapping or something like that, but that is not what he's doing. Pulls off to the 10, taps 12, bends up a step, and then with your ring finger, tap the 15, pull off to 10. Now, here's a really critical tip for making this work. Most all of us tap with our finger kind of going upwards. Not that dramatically, but most people kind of pull the finger into the palm, like that right there. That's how Eddie does it. And a lot of other players. The tapping finger retracts back into the palm. That's kind of what I call an innie. You know, tapping is kind of like belly buttons. They kind of come in two different varieties, innies and outies. Joe Satriani is an outie. Joe Satriani, whenever he taps, he flicks his finger outwards like this, rather than inwards. And especially with this particular lick, it really benefits you to be an outie. I'm not naturally an outie myself, so I kind of had to learn this lick and do it as an outie. Because the thing is like, okay, you got the 10, 12, and then when you do this 15, if you are an innie, you might strike that G string, because since you're bending upwards, you're probably grabbing that G string a little bit too, and obviously that sounds horrible if you accidentally smack it with your innie tap. So whenever you do this tap on the 15th B, be sure to do an outie where I'm pulling away from my palm, not into my palm, in order to sound that out. Little vibrato. And then lastly what you're going to do is the 14 here on the B with a tap, half step bend. Ooh, that was a nasty one. Pull off to 10. And then this last little descending thing he does, it's really nothing in particular. And again, if you listen to the two tracks, you'll hear some real discrepancy between the left side and the right side here. But the basic idea is that you're playing like 14 pulling to 10, 13 pulling to 9, 12 pulling to 8, 11 pulling to 7, just descending down chromatically. It's kind of impossible to keep that really super straight between your hands at any high speed. So eventually it just kind of turns into whatever, just tap and descend with both hands. And it kind of sounds like, you know, when you die in asteroids or something like that. Just tap and descend with both hands. That's basically it. Okay, let's try to lead ourselves through all these different sections here kind of slowly. Again, this is actually kind of harder to play slow than it is fast. When you're playing fast, you don't have to deal with the fact that tap notes don't really have much sustain, so bear with me here. This might get kind of ugly. We start off walking up our kind of A7 sort of arpeggio thing in the octaves. The little stutter pull-off lick. G arpeggio. Sliding to 11. The nasty lick. sliding that pick upwards of my finger right here so I can do these taps. G string, up and over to B, E, E again, B, close enough? And that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and again, thanks to my man Jeff Rupert for making the awesome backing track that he used in my cover of this killer solo. You guys be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. You guys can also follow me on Instagram over at Ben Eller Guitars or over on Facebook at www.facebook.com/UncleBenEller. Also, if you're interested in booking some one-on-one Skype lessons with me, be sure to drop me an email, benellerguitars@gmail.com. I'll get back to you as fast as I can. Thanks again for watching. Now get off this doggone internet machine and go play some guitar. Less clicking, more picking.